woke up tomorrow, everything was done, you were globally recognized for that, then what would your vision now be?
Where did it all begin?
Well, it began when I was younger, and I grew up in a family that... And when I turned 17, my parents were like...
How do you start to let go of these layers that we kind of accumulate over time?
The first step really is to get clear on what is blocking you and stopping you and holding you back internally, because if it's sitting in your unconscious system, it can be very difficult to change because you don't know what you're changing. So sit down and write out what is blocking me, stopping me, slowing me down and holding me back. And if whatever it is that you want to manifest and call in isn't here now, there's things in you that's stopping it. It's never external.
At the end of the day, if you can't bring it from the subconscious mind into your conscious so you actually know what you're dealing with, how can you transmute it and move through it?
Not having the capacity to see your own limits is a block. And something clicked in me, and then I just humbled down and I asked myself, okay, really, if I get really raw and real with this, what is blocking me? Until I realized, like, oh.
If there's one pearl of wisdom, one piece of advice that you had to leave for everyone on this podcast today that would move them 1% forward, what would it be for you?
Okay, yeah, it would be that...
Regan Hillyer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
It's been a long time coming. I actually did one of your meditations today and to get me in the zone ready for this one. But obviously, author, speaker, manifestation coach, where did it all begin?
Well, it began when I was younger, and I grew up in a family that loved me dearly and wanted me to just follow the system really and go to school and get good grades and go to university. And when I turned 17, my parents were like, what do you want to study at university? And my dad always said to me, you know, if I had your opportunities, I would be an architect. So I started studying architecture to try and please my family. And, you know, I enjoyed it and I was good at it, but I always knew deep down that it just wasn't for me. I knew that I wasn't on path. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that wasn't it. And I had a lecturer that actually got us to do a visualization process, which I'd never done before. And he got us to picture ourselves and our lives 20 years out as the architect that we were born to be. And I saw like the worst case scenario for me. And I realized, you know what, I need to figure out why am I here and how do I create a life that I love? So that's when I started asking those big questions when I was 17.
I love it because vision boards are so powerful. I didn't realize this myself up until I did one when I was in Australia, and literally everything I put on the board came into my life in like the 12 months on from that period. So is vision boards the first route to manifestation that you'd advise people to take?
It can be. You know, really any way, firstly, to get clear on your vision is great. Now, if that's vision boards, that works for people. That could be journaling and writing out your vision. That could be meditating and then receiving like, oh, this is what I actually want to create. But whatever the tool is, it doesn't matter so much. But definitely the first step is like, what is the vision? What do you want? Where are you going? And getting really specific with that.
Yeah, I love it. So obviously that's happened in your life. You go through that whole process where that teacher introduced you to those modalities. How do you go from that then to going, right, well, I'm going to use manifestation to obviously manifest your life and change your life and move your life forward, but then also into stepping into a coach. How did that all come about from that point?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, when I was this broke university student, I was like, okay, how do I create a life that I love? I started Googling. I was like, how do you quit your 9-to-5 job? Right? That was my question. And I started coming up with the answers on Google with all these different books and seminars, and kind of got thrown into the personal development industry without realizing what it was, just as a student and as a client. So I started reading these books, going to these events, and I was learning all these strategies. I was trying to change my life. I was trying to make money. So I was learning like property development strategies. I was learning how to trade Forex. I was learning how to start a .com business, like all these things, right? And investing all this money, but nothing was working. I got to this point where I was over 6 figures in credit card loans and personal loans, trying to pay for coaching and courses and education, but nothing was clicking into place. I was losing money. I was starting companies that were failing. And I had a mentor, his name's Simon. He was over 60 years old at the time. And he said, Regan, do you understand you've got this all backwards? Like you're working really hard. You think you're doing everything right, but success and whatever you want to create is 80% internal. It's 80% your mindset, your energy, what you're conditioning yourself to be from the inside out. And then 20% the action that you take and the strategy stuff, right? And he said, what are you doing about that 80%? And I realized I knew nothing about it. So that threw me into another whole rabbit hole of NLP and hypnosis and energy work and mindset and all all these things. And the minute I started working on myself from the inside out, I didn't even know the word manifestation existed at this point in time. I was just like, okay, how do I learn to condition myself to be the best version of me so I can succeed? And then I took action, and then things started changing really quickly. And people have been watching me over these couple of years. They were watching me fail. They were watching me mess up. They were watching me get into debt, and they saw my life shift, and they saw things change in every area of my life. And people naturally started coming to me being like, okay, what are you doing? Like, how'd you do that? You started making money. You look happier. What's happening? I started telling them totally for free. I was just like, well, in the morning, do this. And when you feel fear, here's how you handle it. And if you want to create this, you need to do this, this, and this inside yourself. And the weirdest thing happened. People started coming back to me, and some of them were crying, and they were thanking me, and they were saying, like, Regan, you understand, like, the stuff that you're telling me has changed my life. And I felt this weird feeling in my stomach. I was like, what's this feeling? And then I realized, oh, I think this is what purpose feels like, right? And so I wanted more of that feeling. The question became less about what do I do and how do I create a life that I love? And I was like, how can I get more of this feeling, this purpose feeling? I want to help people. What does this look like? And so I started coaching people one-on-one. Now, I never set out to be a coach. I never trained as a life coach. I don't have any certifications in any of that. But I was like, I can tell them what I'm doing that's working, and I can help them go from where they're at to where they want to be in anything, because it's their inner world that I can work on. And so I put together a coaching package, right? It was 2 hours on the phone with me once a week for 12 weeks. So it was a 12-week package. I charged $300 for the whole 12 weeks. And I was so happy about it. When someone paid that, I was like, I have a client. This is amazing. Someone paid me $300. It's like below minimum wage, right? But I was so happy about it, because that was really my entry into feeling the responsibility of what it is to actually help someone completely change their life. And I got addicted to it.
So you saw then firsthand for $300 as you're training these people, the shift that had to happen in their life.
Yeah.
What was that shift that you saw that was a commonality with most people?
I mean, the commonality is that it was their inner game, you know? And then if we break that down further, it can be a range of different things. For some people, it was letting go of fears. For some people, it was believing in themselves more. For some people, it was creating success, discipline, and habit from the inside out. For some people, it was changing their vibration. Like, there are many different layers, but the core thing with all of it was that they had to go in, and they had to look at what's blocking them and stopping them and slowing them down and holding them back, and how do they condition themselves to be this next version of them, so that then they can take action from this place.
What do you think stops most people from even seeing, though, that they have the inner work to be done?
I think most people just don't know that. You know, it's like if they actually knew what to do and how to do it, I think more people would actually spend the time doing this. But we're just not brought up with this. Kids aren't taught in school, like, hey, honey, when you believe that you're not enough in school today, here's a tool. Here's how you handle that. When someone's bullying you and you feel horrible and that you don't belong and fit in, here's how you deal with these emotions. Like, we're just not taught this stuff, you know?
How do you let go of things, though? So like you're not holding on to these different parts of baggages, maybe from an ex relationship or anything like that. How do you start to let go of these layers that we kind of accumulate over time?
For sure. So the first step really is to get clear on what is blocking you and stopping you and holding you back internally, because if it's sitting in your unconscious system, it can be very difficult to change because you don't know what you're changing, right? So sit down and write out what is blocking me, stopping me, slowing me down, and holding me back right now. And if whatever it is that you want to manifest and call in isn't here now, there's things in you that's stopping it. It's never external, right? And so then you write it out and you're like, okay, well, you know what? I'm scared about this, and I'm telling myself a story that this is going to be really hard, or it's going to take a long time, or I feel fear, or I feel guilt, or whatever it is. And you just get it all out firstly, and then once you can actually see it, you can ask yourself, okay, how can I transform this information? How can I transform this energy? Because it's all information, it's all energy, and it can't be created or destroyed. It's not about getting rid of the fear or never having it ever again, but it's about how do I use it as energy to drive myself forward? How do I manage it and understand that these blocks and these limits are just coming up to try and keep us safe? You know, our unconscious system's wired to keep us alive and breathing and safe. It's not wired for us to thrive and create a life of success. So we have to transform that need for safety into actually using it as powerful energy to move us forward.
Yeah, I love that, because at the end of the day, if you can't bring it from the subconscious mind into your conscious, so you actually know what you're dealing with, how can you transmute it and move through it? You can't.
Exactly.
Like, one of the things that, I've been trying to overcome for the longest time is like shifting off all baggage, you know what I mean? Like just getting rid of anything that's holding me back. But like, if you were to advise me, just for argument's sake, and you were to say, right, I want to find anything limiting within you, Frankie, what would you say to find anything limited that even I've, not been willing to look at, like it's in the gray area kind of thing?
Yeah. So, this reminds me of, I was working with a mentor once and I felt like I'd just gotten rid of everything. I felt like I'd seen every fear, every doubt, every belief. And, I just said to her, I said, there's nothing left. I don't have any more blocks or limits. And she looked at me and she said, Regan, even though you've done so much work on yourself, she said, not having the capacity to see your own limits is a block. Not being humble enough to see these pieces as a block. And something clicked in me. And then I just humbled down and I asked myself, okay, really, if I get really raw and real with this, what is blocking me? And I sat there with this question and I stared at this piece of paper until I realized like, oh, okay, there's this and I'm scared of that. And if I'm really honest, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about that, right? So sometimes we have to go through these layers because our system can be very like sneaky at hiding this stuff. But if you really keep going and you get into curiosity with it, you can reveal it and you can look at it.
Quick one for you guys. If you're loving this conversation and you're getting immense value, consider hitting that subscribe button and turn the notification bells on, as it lets us know that we're creating the right content for you at the right time.
Yeah, this is why I've been trying to like meditate today. I'm like, okay, where am I not free here? Like, what's this little part? Because I feel like I'm doing well in life. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but there's something just not clicking right now. Like, what is it? But I don't want to be adverse to think, oh, just because I've done loads of healing work or just because I've done loads of spiritual work that I've not got stuff left to heal. Yeah. The reason I wanted to ask that in my own voice on this podcast was because I want everyone that listens to this to understand that like, even if you think you're fully healed, even if you're fully like done, the work never stops.
It never stops. And I'm in constant inquiry every single day around what's blocking me, what's stopping me, always. Because if I can see a block or a limit or a fear or something within me that's slowing me down, I'm like, I get so excited. I'm like, I found a fear today. Like, this is so good. This means I have something I can change, which is going to propel me forward. I had someone who was working on me in a session. This was probably about 2 weeks ago. And, he walked in and he sat down and we've been working together for a while. And he said, you're blocked. And I said, okay, how? And he said, okay, Regan, tell me how manifestation works. And I, explained, so, it's the process of taking something that's a dream and a prayer and a vision and anchoring it into your reality. And he said, okay, good. You know how to do that then. So is it true that if you're not clear on what you want to manifest, it won't happen, which is what we talked about. You've got to be clear on the vision. I said, yeah. He said, okay, we agree with that. He said, then why aren't you clear on what you're creating in your life right now? And I said, I'm clear, I'm clear. And he said, no. He said, there's a part of you that's not fully owning it. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I want you to demand what you want from your life. And I want you to tell me, and I want you to demand it. And the minute he said the word demand, my whole system went, ugh, okay, that's a strong word. And I said, yeah, okay. Okay, I can do that. He said, okay, so what do you want? And I said, well, I would love this. And he said, no, not I would love. He said, I demand. He said, look into my eyes and tell me, I demand. And I sat there and I said, okay, I demand this much money. I demand this. I demand. And he's going, yeah, okay, what else? What about your family? What about your love life? What about your body? And he's going through everything. And after what felt like hours of demanding everything and being witnessed by him, he said, okay, now I want you to tell me why you're deserving and worthy of all of that and so much more. And again, I sat there and I felt I was sweating. My heart was racing. And there was a part of me that almost felt not humble and embarrassed for saying, well, I deserve it because I'm this and I'm that and I'm so great. And I was like, oh. And he was just like pulling at these layers within me where I just wasn't fully owning everything, Now, the next day I opened my phone and I opened my Instagram account, and overnight I had just over 23,000 new followers hit my Instagram page, and I hadn't posted anything. And I hadn't done anything. And my whole team was scrambling around going, what happened? What happened? Who did what? Who did what? No one could figure it out. And I thought, that's weird. And the next day, 17,000 new Instagram followers. And I'm going, okay, that's interesting. What is going on? No one's posting any content even. What's happening? Within a week, I had 140,000 new people hit my Instagram page, and we weren't doing anything. We did nothing different whatsoever. And this man looked at me and he said, when are you going to get it? He's like, you just shifted your internal reality. You saw a block and a limit, you released it, you claimed what you want, and you backed it up with really choosing it and knowing that you're deserving and worthy of it. And he said that frequency and that energy then rippled through your entire audience, your entire community. Everyone got the memo, and then it rippled through all of their people as well. And somehow in the quantum field of information, people felt that and they found you.
Oh, I love that.
It's pretty wild, right?
And I love that because I went on a Joe Dispenza week-long retreat, and when I don't know if you've ever been to something like that.
Not live, but I love his work. Yeah.
Yeah. He was talking about the quantum field and getting into the quantum field and how you can, there's no time and no space.
Right.
Explain it. But I want you to articulate what the quantum field is from your lens.
Of course. So I use the quantum field each and every single day, and it's the core, really baseline foundation of actually how we manifest. You know, many people think manifestation is a woo-woo spiritual concept. It's actually science, right? So in order to really create what we want, if we understand the structure of our reality, we know the building blocks that we're then playing with. So we are the quantum field, and the quantum field is everything around us, and we have full access to all of it, and it's actually all just information. So if we zoom into our structure, anything that appears to be solid and still actually isn't. It's alive, it's oscillating, it's vibrating, and including ourselves and including our manifestations. Now, if we zoom in at a deeper level, we have, for example, the particles. And if we zoom in, we have the electrons that are also bouncing around. And it's proven, by the way, that the electrons can travel forward and back in time. So that's interesting. We're made up of electrons. So what if through our consciousness, we could also travel forward and back in time and alter our experience of our reality, play with the matrix, play with the illusion. And if we go even deeper, we have effectively energy fields that are connecting all of this information together. Again, everyone thinks energy is a woo-woo conversation, but it's our structure. It's what we're made up of. And if we go even deeper, we have frequency and vibrational waves within the energy fields. We're made up of frequency. Our frequency is our currency, right? And we're having, again, this frequency, vibrational, energetic exchange. And if we zoom in even deeper, this is where we start having what quantum physics would call quantum foam, which is effectively where the electrons and the particles are blipping in the matrix, right? There's time, space, little blips that happen that even science can't explain why the system starts to break. But we start having these little patterns of information happen effectively where the electrons are coming in and out of time and space, in and out of this reality, if you like. Again, this is all inside of us, right? And if we zoom in even deeper, we hit a point where science says that we're made up of 99.9999999% nothing, which you could then call God or creator or source or the 0 point or the field of infinite potentiality. So we're made up of infinite potentiality. And if we zoom in even deeper, we're effectively hitting a 0 point of information, which opens us to that infinite field of possibilities. So that's our structure. And that's also the structure of our manifestations. And it's proven that we have access through quantum physics at a particle level to anything within this field across time and space. Because as you mentioned earlier, time is an illusion. And we know through quantum entanglement that two or more particles can interact with each other, inform each other, relative to the distance, relative to how far away they are. And they can even entangle and fuse and become one with each other. So what if the particles of our manifestation could entangle, fuse, and become one with our particles now, so that we literally become our manifestation? And then our external reality is always a direct reflection of what's going on internally. So we update the internal information, and then from there, we create the reflection of what we've then manifested in our life.
That is the best.
Is that a mic drop situation?
That was the best ever I've heard it explained. To
Thank
be honest,
you.
To be totally honest with you, I was sat there, I was lit up. I was like, this is good. This is good. No, but you're so right. So how can everyone then from today start to really program themselves so they can close that gap? Because obviously, like, we all want to close that gap. There's many areas in my life that I want to close the gap. I mean, one of my goals in life is to have one of the biggest educational podcasts in the world there's ever been. I want that, right? But I suppose even how I'm saying that I want it means that I don't have it, right? So I've just picked up on that language pattern straight away when I asked you that question.
Yeah,
but
good.
it's like, how can I frame that for argument? If that's my goal, how do I close the gap between where we are right now and that happening in my reality?
Yeah. So firstly, which you already are, get clear on the vision, right? Get really clear on like, what is the specific outcome? You need to focus the energy because that's where it flows. So you have that. The next layer is that you've got to expand your capacity to receive. Most people just set a goal or a vision, but they don't create space in their system to actually hold it. So you can do this by working into what I call the vision beyond the vision. So for example, podcast example, if you have the number one education podcast in the world, if you woke up tomorrow and the ratings were there, the downloads were there, everything was done, you were globally recognized for that, then what would your vision now be? Because it wouldn't be that, because you've already done it. So you wouldn't be trying to create that anymore. You'd already have that.
Yeah.
Right. So what's that next step? And that can feel like, I don't know, that can feel uncomfortable. That can feel big. It should feel like your system's breaking when you go into this. Yeah.
See, I believe that I know what I want to do, but even beyond that.
Good.
Know,
that's good. If you can be working 2-3 levels even out from that, that's going to help the expansion. You want to do that. We need to do this because our system hits unconscious caps, right? Again, we're wired to keep ourselves safe. So if we're coming really close to being that number one podcast and you're getting really, really, really close to it, and your system can't see what are the steps beyond that you're going to then manifest, it says, well, that might not be safe. If you create that, you might fall in a big black hole and you might die. You might fall off the edge of a cliff. We don't know. So we're going to do anything we can to make sure that doesn't happen, right?
So when you set a quote unquote goal, you should always have goals beyond that major goal.
Correct.
To work towards afterwards. And
if I have a client, if I have a client who's looking to manifest 100K, I'm like, great. And then? So they need to be aligned to the 120 and they need to be aligned to the 150. They need to be doing all the work and all the steps around the 150K so that the 100K becomes a stepping stone and they fly through it.
When it comes to money, say most people want to manifest, say, $1 million, which is a common answer. Do they have to have a deep why as to why they want to manifest that $1 million attached to it? Or can they just manifest $1 million?
Yeah, they need to have that why, because there's an emotional resonance to it and we're feeling beings. We don't create just from our mind. I've never met anyone who's like, yeah, I created millions of dollars. I don't know, because I was bored and I have nothing else to do and I don't really know why, right? It's like they did it because they wanted it at some level, right? So what is that want? And that want has got to be really raw and authentic. And it's like tapping into the desire of your soul. Many people in the spiritual world say that desire is bad and it's wrong and we shouldn't have it and you should want for nothing and be nothing and attain to be nothing and whatever. And I just disagree, because our soul speaks to us through desire. And again, look at this through the quantum field, right? So we know that if there's something that you desire, and it's not a desire of the ego or the limiting constructs, like, I desire to eat the whole chocolate cake. Like, no, okay, that's coming from a wound. But if there's really a desire, like, you know what, I really desire to manifest over $1 million, you're feeling that because your soul is whispering to you and telling you, hey, you want that because you've already done it. You want that because you can feel that it's already happened. That's what you're feeling, right? So then it's about acknowledging that desire and charging up that feeling and getting into the emotional and frequency state of not, I want it, or could it happen, or that would be nice, but it's happened now, right? Because again, we've got to take that information in the quantum field and entangle with it and allow it to update our system so we feel like we have it now. And a tool people can use for this is what I call energetic conditioning. So you can use manifestation alarms. Now, if you set an alarm on your phone, like every hour, on the hour, a good alarm that's good for your nervous system, not like a brah, 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 like a good one, right? Yeah. And when it goes off, just close your eyes, like 20 seconds to 2 minutes maximum, and allow yourself to just feel what it would feel like if your manifestation was here now. That's it. And if you feel nothing, you do it again and you do it again, do it again. So I promise eventually that alarm will go off and you'll feel it. Now, when you feel it, tell that feeling to get stronger. You could be feeling happiness, gratitude, excitement, relief, whatever it is. Turn that feeling up. Then tell your system to double it and triple it. Run it as strong as you can until eventually that alarm will go off and you'll realize, like, oh, I'm in the feeling. I don't really need to tap into it. I feel like it is here now. That's cool. And then the alarm will go off at some point and you open your eyes and you realize, like, oh, my manifestation is here. I do have the number one podcast. Okay. And then you keep going and you continue to reset yourself. But, most people just aren't willing to do this work. It's like going to the gym. You don't just go to the gym once and lift a dumbbell and then be like, where's my dream body? Like, you've got to go again, right? Yeah. It's the same with your frequency. You've got to condition yourself energetically. But yeah, you've got to be tapping into this desire and effectively like that big reason why.
How do you frame it though when you get to your level? Because obviously, like, you're speaking on stages in front of thousands of people. You've just come off stage now, like literally an hour ago.
Yeah.
You're doing your online stuff. You're building your personal brand. Everything's going. What is your like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead that you're seeing to make sure that the next reality is birthed again?
Yeah. So I do this in different areas of my life, and you can focus also on simultaneous areas, or you can double down on, you know, one or two if that's really important. So you can do either. But for me, with where my life is at right now, I feel my life is so amazing, so juicy, so awesome in so many ways. I'm so in love with every area of my life. For me, it's this plus more. It's this plus the next level, because I feel it's really in alignment. For some people, it might be that, for example, they're in a job right now and they feel it's totally out of alignment, and they're manifesting like a different path and something quite different. And then for some people, it might be more like me, where it's like, my life is freaking amazing, but I know there's that next level. So it's interesting, because you can manifest from a way of going like, the intention is like, okay, for example, money, 100 grand. Okay, 120, 150, very like specific in that. There's also another way to manifest, which is challenging for some people to get their head around, but it works really well when you're in a place where your life is amazing and in alignment, but you want to take it to that next level. So often I choose to anchor in as my intention. I say, okay, I want to anchor in the intention of my highest self, the version of me that's already manifested everything I desire and so much more. And I'm simply connecting with that intention. Now, I might not even know what that is. I might not even know what that looks like. I might not even know that, oh, that requires me to fly to Europe in 3 months' time and do something on a TV show. I might not know those details, but my connection point is the intention of my highest self in the future that's already manifested what I desire, even if I can't see it.
Right.
Now, that takes a lot of trust.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because you're basically saying, I'm leaving my door open to the infinite potential of life.
Correct.
But I'm still manifesting my highest reality.
Exactly. And I'm not controlling the process, and I'm in deep trust. I'm in deep surrender. I'm still listening. I'm stepping forward. Regan, what's it going to look like 5 years from now? I don't know.
So does that mean then that everyone listening to this right now could say to themselves, right, perhaps I don't need to know exactly what I want to manifest. Maybe I could just manifest the highest and good for me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and you see the difference versus going, I want to manifest more abundance. Okay, that you can't do that, because that's fluffy. That's not clear. That's not precise. Either, okay, it's this and it's this amount of money, boom. Or I'm going to manifest the amount of money that my highest self has already created in my future that's so big that I can't even fathom it right now. That would work.
That's powerful, because I've never heard manifestation explained like that.
Yeah.
Because you basically say that a lot of people will put the block on manifestation. One, for the word manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Two, because they're like, well, I don't have the specific goal that I want to manifest yet because I'm not clear on what I want. Well,
Right.
You've just taken those two things away, because
Yeah.
you're basically saying, well, no, how about you just manifest for your highest and good? Now whatever's in your potential reality and whatever's in your energy field and the infinite potential, you can acquire that. You don't need to know what that is.
Correct. And there are so many things that have manifested in my life that honestly, I didn't sit down and I didn't create a vision board and go, I'm going to create this. Like, for example, I'm building an amazing community on 700 acres of land in Costa Rica, right? And we have a retreat center and a residential area, a biohacking spa, a restaurant. Like, this is an amazing project. Now, I never sat down and said, I want to create a community in Costa Rica. But I did sit down and say, I'm ready. This was at the beginning of COVID. I'm ready for my next evolution. I'm ready to be of more service. I'm ready to tap into more abundance. I'm ready to create something really big that the world hasn't seen before. And I chose to connect with the highest version of me that had the intention that whatever that looked like, it was done.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, COVID happened, and I find myself in Costa Rica, and then I'm staying in Costa Rica, and then I find a piece of land, and then I step on the land, and then I see a vision, and it unfolded through me. Even when I purchased the first piece of land, I didn't have the full vision for the community. I thought I was just going to build a house and live a simple life. Good one. Right? Got real big and complicated real fast. But, the vision unfolded through me because I was manifesting from that place, not from a place of like, here's the specific thing. Both work. But if you can do it this way, it can be a lot more powerful.
I love that. And I love the fact that you live between Costa Rica, which is like an energy portal type place, and Ibiza, which is
Yeah.
an energy portal type place. I mean, one of the things that I've been trying to overcome for the longest time, if I'm totally honest, is this base thing. Where do I base myself?
Yeah.
And I've been constantly conditioning my mind and telling myself that I have to be based in a major city because I want to obviously grow my software business, grow my business, but also grow my podcast. And you need to be there for guests and this, that, and the other. Like, how would you suggest that I overcame that to give myself more options of places I could base myself? Because I really want to work on that.
Again, for someone like you, I would tap into, okay, the intention and the manifestation of my highest self that's already got that #1 podcast and that show. What does that look like? And really do the work to connect in with that, to listen to that. Because there's probably a way to do it that you haven't even seen right now.
Yeah,
Because it's not going to come
yeah.
from your mind. It's not going to be logical. Like when we're working with the soul's desire, it's non-linear, it's non-logical. It's maybe like no one's done it before. Maybe it's some crazy way where it's so good and so unique that people fly to you. Like, who knows?
Yeah, this is one of the things that I've been trying to cook this through meditation. I've been trying to cook it through journaling. I've been trying to cook it through all these different modalities, physically thinking of it, and nothing feels nothing has felt at this moment 100% right.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not allowing it to lead me towards frustration, because obviously that's a low vibrational
Yeah.
frequency, right? But it's hard because you want to go towards frustration. Because for me it feels like, oh, I'm trying so many different ways, but something's not right here. So what do you do when you're in that position, when you don't want to go towards frustration, but yet you are actively trying to do these other modalities that you know are good?
Yeah.
Where I know you're saying live in that potentiality of all the things.
Yeah.
But like, how do you take yourself there when you kind of feel like in that zone?
For sure. Actually, feel the frustration. You know, if there's a part of you like, oh, I don't want to get frustrated, I'm running away from the frustration, there's a part of you like pushing it away. And it's not necessarily a low vibration emotion, state, or feeling. It's coming up because it's information. It's just a data point.
So it's something that needs to be felt.
Yeah. It's coming up for a reason. Like if I was feeling frustrated, why am I feeling frustrated? Okay, let me feel that frustration. Frustration is anger. All right, let me sit in the anger. Let me express it to myself in a healthy way. Let me feel it. And remember, we're not creating or destroying the energy, so we can't get rid of the frustration. So if we keep pushing it aside and going, oh, I don't want to feel it, then it's going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger until we get the lesson from it, right? So instead, you want to bring it to the surface. You want to feel it and you want to transform it. Like anger energy is amazing because it's lightning energy. It's creation energy. It's so good. So the minute we can feel that and unlock it and learn from it, drives you forward, you know?
Yeah, I experienced some anger energy about a different topic the other week, and I used that in the boxing gym, and I used it to fuel my workouts, and then I used it to build some extra stuff within the software business, and it actually funded me. But maybe in regards to this location stuff, maybe it's stuff I've not been willing to feel yet, which is why I'm still in like analysis paralysis point.
Exactly. So if you're not willing to feel the full spectrum of the frustration, you're also not willing to feel the full spectrum of the bliss and the joy and the abundance and the clarity and all of it. Because we numb one, we numb everything. We're not in different compartments.
Well, I think today I've learned that you have to be willing to feel it in things that even if you don't even think it's anger. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't think, oh, that's maybe anger today. I just thought maybe that's just me over analyzing it. I thought because I was doing the work that, you know, I was doing it, that's fine. You're doing the work. You're trying to do the work. But it's no, like, obviously if there's some form of like frustration within you, you have to look at that and you process it as anger, like you just said.
Yeah.
So is all frustration anger?
Yeah.
Every part of it.
Yeah, everything stems from anger, fear, sadness, worry, and guilt.
Right.
Yeah.
Where were some of the areas of your life where you had to overcome like guilt and anger?
Look, I feel so much that I feel a lot of all those things all the time. And I'm also fine with it because I used to, again, tag it as like, oh no, that's bad. I shouldn't be feeling that. That's a low vibe, right? I don't want to feel that. Let me just be happy, right? Then I realized like, actually it's coming up for a reason. It's a data point of information. It's a reference point of evolution. What can I learn from it? Let me go into it, right? So like even about 5 days ago, you know, my team sent an email, bless them, to a group of people that it was meant to go to 20 clients, and it was quite a private message related to these 20 clients, and they sent it to my entire email list. Great. So all of a sudden we had like a whole situation on our hands, And I was really angry about it. I was just like, guys, this is like kindergarten stuff. Like, how could we do this, right? And what I didn't do is I didn't explode my anger out on all of them, but I sat with myself and I really let myself feel the anger. I let myself feel the frustration, and I let myself, unlock some of the learnings and the lessons from that, and then speak to them from a calm place, and then put some different systems in place, and then, activate what I'd learned from it, basically, so that we don't have to repeat this scenario again. But that happens all the time. Little things coming up like that, in life and
How
business.
did you use it though to disperse? Because obviously before you spoke to the staff, you'd have to use that anger to disperse it. So how did you use it?
I allowed myself to feel it, and I just asked myself, what is there to learn from this? Right? Because we can hold on to that emotion, or we can hold on to what there is to learn, but we can't hold on to both at the same time.
Right. Okay.
Right? So it's almost like if you have a 3-year-old and they touch a really hot oven in the kitchen, they either have a choice. They're going to be terrified of kitchens and ovens for the rest of their life and go, oh, they hurt me. Or they're going to say, okay, I learned, don't touch the oven, it's hot. And then they don't need to live in fear of the oven, right? Because they've got the learning, don't touch it. So you don't need to be afraid of it. So it's the same thing. The anger comes out, the frustration. Okay, what is there to learn from this? And I was like, okay, I've learned that I need some different systems when I'm sending out a very sensitive personal email to a very small group of people to ensure that this mistake, just a human error, does not happen again. So I learned that. I allowed the anger to transform into clarity and then motion forward into then training my team to set up a new system so that this just doesn't happen again. And now we're good. Right.
One of the most interesting things as well I want to touch on whilst I got you here is obviously you live, like we said before, in Costa Rica and Ibiza, but yet you've built your brand online, and one in a way that's unparalleled, but in your space. So how did you ever have a block where the location was affecting you in being able to do that? Like, did you ever have that block where you thought, oh, I have to live in a major city to make this happen? And how did you overcome that?
I did, yeah. So when I created an offline education company in Australia and New Zealand, and then realized it was kind of out of alignment and I didn't love it. So I shut that down, even though I was 23, I was doing just over $1 million through that company. Everyone was like, oh my God, amazing. But I just knew that I wasn't fully in alignment. So I shut that down. I left everything. I moved to Bali. Which seems very far, but from Australia, it's like a few hours, right? Yeah. And I moved to Bali, and I asked myself, how do I do this in a more authentic way? How do I do this in a way where I really love it? And I started again completely from scratch. And one of the things that I didn't like with the old company is that I had to be in Australia and New Zealand. I had to be in these big cities, and I could only fit so many people in the room. Like, my impact and service was capped. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the internet because there's billions of people and it's uncapped. This is cool. I knew nothing about the internet. I knew nothing about social media. I knew nothing about systems or online marketing or anything. But I put my head down and I was like, okay, I'm just going to start, and I'm going to start this personal brand, which is Regan Hillyer International, the main education company you see today. And I went from absolutely zero to over $1 million cash received in just under 8 months with no knowledge or expertise. I didn't even have an Instagram page at that time. I was doing over $1 million in that 8 months, and I didn't have Instagram. I had just under 2,000 people on my Facebook personal page, didn't have a business page, and an email list of about 600 people from memory. That's it. Right. And so, I, at that point in time, was like, okay, cool. This is cool. I'm in Bali. I'm doing this. I, used the term at that time, location free. It was kind of a term that I coined, and I was like, okay, I'm going to create this location free business. But then this voice came in my head and was like, okay, well, you've made it to here, but in order to really go to this next level, $5 million, $10 million a year and beyond, you're going to need to be in a big city. You're going to need to be in a hub. You need to be around more people like that. So after, that year, I moved to LA, and I rented a really beautiful house in LA. I put myself there, and then I basically just kept traveling, even though I had this amazing house. And naturally, I was speaking there, going to here, meeting this person there, and everything. I was still traveling around, and then I realized this is crazy. Like, I thought that I had to be in this big city, but actually most of my impact and revenue and everything is coming from me going to different places. And I realized that it was really just a story that I made up. So I had that house for a total of 6 months and then got back on the road and kept traveling.
And did you find though that the time you were in LA helped you really push yourself?
No, it was actually kind of a waste of time, energy and resources. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So I think this is something that I've probably kid myself around by, I think, I have to be in Dubai. But when I'm here, I enjoy it for a few months, and I'm like, right, I really need nature. I really need greenery. I really need connection. On a different form. It's good for chapters, but I know it's not my place forever.
Guys, before we go into this podcast is sponsored by contentremoval.com. If you're looking to remove any images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything else online, go to contentremoval.com. We've looked after everybody from the likes of Alex Hormozy, Kayla Racines, Tammy Hembrow, to a whole host of other brands and celebrities that you know and love. And we'd love to help you with your issues online. So if you have any issues online and you want to get in touch with us, click the link below this video and go to contentremoval.com.
Yeah, and look, I love coming into hubs and big cities like that, but I come in intentionally and I hit it hard and then I'm out, Like now, I'm here for 2 weeks and I'm back to back to back and I love it and I thrive off it. And then I'm going to go back to the jungle, and continue to run everything online. So I think you can have a balance of that. I think, one thing that really did help me in LA, that probably the one good thing that came out of this actually, which really, I didn't have to be living there to do this. I could actually come in for a weekend and do this and then leave, is because I was in the mindset of like, okay, LA is going to be my home. I'm going to create a base here. I'm going to be in a big city. This is going to expand my reach and my impact and my service. I hired a manager, like Hollywood style, right? And I said, I know you're meant to, book actors on movies and things like that, but I want to hire you as my manager to help elevate my brand. And I don't know one person here. So I want you to introduce me to people. And he said, okay, I can do that. I know everyone in your industry. Like he was friends with Oprah and like all these people, right? And so one of the things that I did in this house that I was living in, that I rented, is I said, okay, let's create an amazing cocktail evening at sunset. And so people come at sunset. There's a beautiful pool. I get a DJ. I put on, cocktails and some food. And I don't know anyone. Can you just invite like maybe 30 amazing people? And we called it the Gathering of the Great Minds in LA. And it was this invite only party where people would come, and all night my manager, oh, Regan, meet so-and-so. Oh, Regan, meet this person. And I met one person out of these events that I was doing. His name is Mark Golston, bless his soul. And he said to me, he was probably like 85 at the time. And he said, what's your vision? And I told him what my vision was. And he said, you have to meet my friend Vishen. And I said, Vishen who? He said, Vishen Lakiani. He runs a company called Mind Valley. I said, what's Mind Valley? And he said, it's an education platform. Like, it's absolutely incredible. Like, you're very similar. You have a similar vision to him. You should meet. And I said, where's he based? And he said, Malaysia. And I said, I'm actually speaking in Malaysia in about a month in KL. He said, great, I'll put you in an email with him. So he sets up the email the next day. Regan, meet Vishen. Vishen, meet Regan. And no reply. And then Mark emails again, hey, Vishen, like you really need to meet Regan. There's no reply. He emails a third time. Guys, you really need to connect. Regan's coming to KL. There's no reply. He emailed Vishen 8 times. And at this point I rang Mark and I was like, can you stop? It's okay. He doesn't want to meet me. It's all right. Like, just let it go. And he kept emailing and he kept emailing until Vishen responded. And Vishen's like, Regan, hi. I'm in KL on this date as well. Meet me for lunch at 12 p.m. at this location. I said, okay. And so I caught up for lunch with Vishen and his now ex-wife, Christina, and their 2 kids. And he said, I have 20 minutes. And we sat down and we had this conversation. I was there for 2.5 hours with him and his family. We had a beautiful connection. And he invited me to come to a Mind Valley event, which then changed my life. And now I'm the top speaker on Mind Valley, right? And this was 10 years ago. And it's interesting when I track it back as to how all of that worked. And it did come from me being in LA, but really I could have flown into LA for a weekend and got that done. It wasn't because I needed to be there long term, So if you're intentional and if you're strategic, and again, if you're listening to the desire of your soul and you're acting from this frequency, I could have done that, the more effective way to do that. I could have done that in 10 different countries in a month around the world. Imagine what could have come from that.
Yeah, but the way it happened was the way it was meant to happen.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't think it could have been done in any other way, really, when you break it down.
It's all perfect when you break it down.
Yeah.
But don't let the location limit you,
Yeah. Yeah, I like that story because it just shows you that how certain things can unlock. I mean, me going to Australia at the time, from the UK going to Australia, living in Australia 8.5 years, it unlocked a whole new level of self. Like just being in the energy of Australia and this, that, and the other. But then I realised, Australia's so far away.
Yeah.
I've got stuff to do, and I really worried about when I left Australia. What would happen? This, that, and the other. But everything got infinitely better. Like revenue got better.
Yeah.
The reach got better. The guests got bigger. Everything got better on the back of it. So I think, guys, if you're listening to this and you're like me dealing with some form of location like paralysis, where you're like worried about location, maybe just get over it and just let yourself move forward. I think I'm going to sit with this and meditate on it later, actually, because I think if you don't, you're kind of not really reflecting on where you're at.
Totally. And it's okay to try things on. Go and get an Airbnb for a month somewhere and be like, I live here, and see what it feels like.
But since you put your roots down, with two bases, have you noticed that things started to take off even more since then?
Yeah,
since you had somewhere to leave the cases and not travel around all the time.
Yeah, look, definitely. I burned out with this nomadic lifestyle. I mean, I was nearly 8 years living out of a suitcase. And if I was in more than 2 weeks for one time, that was a real long time for me, and there was no logic to it. I was flying from one end of the world to the other, to back to the other. Like, it was crazy. And again, I wouldn't change it. Like, my hustle was strong. It unlocked a lot. But I had a point where I just became exhausted. I started to hate airports. And every time I was like, I can't even think about packing this bag again. And you have to, I would choose to work so hard at keeping the routine, finding the closest gym, looking up the organic store, making sure I had a kitchen. Like, there's just so many things that, you need to think about that do change when you have that base. But even still, I have those two bases, and I'm still traveling for at least 8 months of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the traveling part. I just wish I had somewhere that was just a bit more rooted down that I could go back to, because I think that's the next key for me, and I'm just going to allow myself to explore where that is. I'm going to try Costa Rica now you've mentioned it.
You should. It's a vortex. It's amazing.
So how did you align yourself with those two places, particularly like the Costa Rica and Ibiza?
Both of them, actually, I just feel as very strong energetic vortexes. Both of them in terms of the nature, the energy, the people, the water quality. There's so many things that come into play. And then also logistically, because I do travel a lot, I effectively have a Europe base and America base, so that also helps me, where it's like Ibiza is obviously very close to anywhere in Europe. Costa Rica, you're a couple of hours from the States as well. So that's really, my hub for that. And also Europe, getting through to Dubai is also nice and easy too. I feel like Dubai is the center of the world sometimes.
Yeah, I think that for me, I've never even thought about living in a location like that to kind of put myself so close to America and so close to Dubai and Europe, it just makes complete sense when you actually, but everyone's told, it's London, it's Dubai, it's LA, it's Miami, it's this, it's that. You don't even conceptualize living, or it's Thailand, or it's Bali,
Right. There's other options.
Yeah. I think you just got to be open to exploring these different possibilities.
And go just spend some time there. It's like, just spend some time. The Costa Rica base really happened because of COVID. That's what cut my nomadic traveling. I was still fully in a suitcase, no base at that time. And then COVID happened, and I found myself in Costa Rica, and I was like, had this moment, what do I do? Where do I go? Do I go back to New Zealand? How's that looking? Not so great. Okay, I'll stay here, right? And then just continue to stay here, and then found the land, and COVID continued on, and it happened kind of organically as well, because it at that time felt like a very good place to be. It was a very free place to be. There weren't a lot of restrictions and things being enforced, and it was a pretty good vibe there. Yeah.
Where do you go from here? Like, after obviously you spoke at Mind Valley event now, where do you go from here?
I'm heading to Florida, to the States after this. I'm filming a documentary called Shield. So it's about women that help women heal and women that have healed themselves. So I have an interview for that. Then I head to Costa Rica for a couple of weeks, then to Ibiza for a couple of weeks, and then out to Egypt to do some work for a group over there.
Egypt is another energy vortex.
Yeah.
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 Have you been out there before?
I have been out there before. I had some crazy experiences out there. And yeah, when I go back this time, I'm going to be doing some activations and meditations in the pyramids and on sacred sites for a group of people that are bringing me out there.
Lucas Mack told me that he did a meditation inside the pyramid, and he said he can't even describe what was unlocked by meditating in that environment.
It's wild.
He says you just got to go do it. Like,
these pyramids are pieces of technology, really, and they're there physically to help us also activate and tap into our inner technology. They're just a reflection of what we have available inside of us. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
What is your step-by-step process on how someone can start to activate or change their life around?
Yeah, so firstly, the vision, like we talked about, getting clear on that. Second, expand your capacity to receive. Again, like we spoke of, going into the vision beyond the vision, that next step. The third step that we also touched on a little bit is clearing out the blocks and the limitations. So that's when you then ask yourself, okay, what's blocking me, stopping me, slowing me down, holding me back? Get clear on that, start to shift that energy and move it. The fourth step around this is that you've got to change your beingness. So we don't get in life what we do, but we do get who we choose to be. So we know, again, across the quantum field, we have full and complete access to all the information. So anyone listening or watching can tap into the higher self, the version of themselves that's already created the life that they desire, and then almost like interview them, right? So that version of you that's created your entire life, you can ask them, okay, how does this version of me walk? How do they talk? What do they think about? How do they act? What do they say yes to? What do they say no to? How do they wake up in the morning? What do they eat for breakfast? What kind of water do they drink? How do they work out? Like whatever, details. Notice it's not how did they do it? What did they do? It's how were they being, right? And so you write out this information. You notice what's different versus this version of me versus the version of me that's already created everything. You notice the difference, and then you want to start being this version now. So this is not fake it till you make it, because it's not going to work. That's lying and it's out of integrity. This is getting into the radical truth and authenticity of who you actually are. This is bringing your essence to the table. You know, when someone just walks into a room and immediately, no matter what they look like, you're just like, I want to get to know this person. There's something about them. It's generally because they're being themselves, and they're just being a high vibrational version of them, and they don't care even how they're dressed or what they look like or this or that or what they say or do, because they're just them.
Because their energy introduces themselves.
Exactly. We're having a frequency conversation.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that is something I think that we all need to sit with and just kind of raise our aura and see what our internal conversation is saying. Not enough of us are being honest with that and reflecting on it,
Yeah.
I think that leaves you open to, all these different possibilities that you don't even know.
Yeah.
Leads you down paths you don't want to go down.
And it takes courage. You have to kill the older version of yourself, and when that is scary. You can not know who you are sometimes, and you can feel uncomfortable. It's like going into a shop and putting on a new jacket and being like, okay, this feels a little weird. It's not my jacket that I've worn for 10 years. This feels new. And what are people going to think about this jacket? Is it too much? Is it too bright? Is it too bold? Is it too sparkly? Like, what's going on? What are my family going to think about it? Like, they've never worn a jacket like this. Maybe they can't afford a jacket like that. What's that going to bring up? Am I going to be judged? Maybe. Okay, how can I handle that? There's a lot to unpack.
Judgment's one of those ones where, how can people handle judgment? How should they handle it?
Well, look, if people are judging you, ultimately it's because there's something in you that is shining, that they're actually seeing, but they haven't accepted in themselves.
Accepted in themselves that they want it, or accepted in themselves per se?
Totally. So, for example, if someone makes a lot of money and someone else doesn't, and they look at the person making a lot of money and they judge them, they go, oh, they're greedy. They're just that. They're just that. They're just that. It's because there's a part of them that actually wants to make a lot of money. And so instead of going, wow, that person's making a lot of money, that's so cool, I want that too, let me talk to them. Maybe I could learn from them. Instead, they go, oh no, I want that, but I'm not willing to say that I want that. I'm in denial of that. So instead, let me judge it. So instead, let me project that that person's bad and wrong and evil and greedy and whatever I can push on them so that I can not see what I actually want.
Right. What about when I've had this happen in my own life, where I've had someone who I perceive as way more successful than where I'm at currently in my life. They've messaged me something that and framed it in a way that I believe they're trying to hold me down? What's that saying? Does that say that they're worried about me stepping forward into my light, or and someone's trying to hold me down, or what's that saying?
It can be. It's yeah. It just means that they're creating from their ego in their life.
Right.
So they're creating from a place of effectively, look what I've created. I'm the best. No, you can't come and be up here too, because then I might not be the best anymore. Right. So get away, get down.
So which part of their life would they not be looking at in the most objective light?
Well, they're just not looking at this ego that they're creating from. You know, they're just not seeing that, you know what, I'm creating this from a place of ego, and what is underneath the ego? There's a scared little boy or girl that doesn't feel enough. Right. That's all that's going on. So, okay, I don't feel enough, so let me create something really good in my life. Oh, look what I've done. Now I've made money and I'm really successful. Okay, this is amazing. No, you can't come up here too, because then you might be better at me, and then that's going to show me I'm not enough again. Damn it. Right.
So the key metric there is, rather than dealing with the wound of not feeling enough in their childhood, which
project it out.
They've gone and built success, but then they're projecting onto me.
Correct.
Because that wound's still there, and then obviously, you know, try to hold me back. But then say I get to this certain level, and then the wound's still there. What do they do then?
Well,
they either deal with the wound, or they break down, right?
Exactly.
So the commonality there is like we all have wounds within us. It's better to look at our shadows. Like,
absolutely.
If what are some? I know we touched on it multiple times, but I want to touch on it in different ways so it lands with people. But like, what are some of the most common shadows that people are like not seeing, like that you see in the day to day that they're not seeing, like the real one that sticks out to you that no one looks at?
I think this thing of really not feeling enough is pretty big, and you know, you find this underneath the surface in a lot of successful people too. You know, I'd love to say everyone's creating from a really healed, grounded place where they've seen their stuff, and now they're really just living a really big, successful life because they want to serve more, but more often than not, no.
When I was involved around boxing, and I was on the path, I went on this mad path with boxing, then I went on another mad path with becoming a boxing trainer. When I got to world title level in boxing, and I stood there and I was looking out at the crowd, and like I was at the pinnacle, and it felt like nothing to me. When I got back to the changing room, I stood outside the changing room, and that's when I realized that I had to go on a real path of self-discovery to find out what this was about, because how can you get to this point that you said you wanted and then not know? And when I went down this exploratory path, it was because I didn't feel loved as a child.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I hadn't have gone down that path and didn't understand that and go and heal that part of myself and go and make it right and not have that bitterness towards
totally.
I had realized because I didn't feel loved, I had a bitterness towards my mum, right? Unbeknownst to me. So then that bitterness towards my mum affected every female relationship I had in my life. And I'm like, holy fuck, this explains. And then I'm like, well, that explains why I'm attracting this partner and this partner and this partner.
You got it.
And then I'm like, oh, holy fuck, that's why I'm trying to fix all these broken things like in my life. And it's like, it took me, that process that I've just described took me like 3.5, 4 years to figure that out. Totally. But I realized that I'm glad I looked at the wound, because if I hadn't looked at the wound, I would keep manifesting the same relationship in my life, and the relationship would always leave me feeling like shit.
Okay, so I literally had this happen a couple of months ago with something around money, and it was very interesting. And I had this memory come up of being a little girl. I must have been like 6 or 7 years old, and I was asking my dad for money. And I wanted to buy like a dress or something that I really, really wanted as this little girl. And my dad turned around and was like, oh, honey, you know, I'd love to give you money for that, but I can't because I don't have enough money. And, you know, we don't have money. Like, you know, right now, all our money's going to just trying to put food on the table. And it's really hard right now. And I remember this conversation that I had with him. And I remember going, okay, Dad, it's okay, don't worry. And I went to my room and I cried. And my parents never saw me, but I was so upset that I just couldn't have the money and get the dress that I wanted. And I saw in this moment that I literally made a decision as a little girl that I need to create money, a lot of money, because there's not enough. And I need to create money because there isn't going to be any. And money's stressful and there's not even enough money to buy food. And I made a decision as that little 6-7-year-old girl that, you know what? I can't trust in the masculine.
Wow.
I can't trust in the masculine, especially financially.
Wow.
Because the masculine can't provide financially in the way that I'm asking for.
And how did that manifest in your relationships?
You could take a guess.
Yeah.
It literally manifested with me creating a lot of money, which, you know, I'm grateful for this wound. It's great. I've created a lot, but now that I can see that and shift that and come from a different place, right? And it also then manifested with, in the past, attracting partners where I was the one financially holding everything up. And I was the one being like, you know, it's okay. Like, let me generate enough for me and you. So I would attract these people, these men that were like, okay.
So you wouldn't even attract a masculine man?
I mean, some of them were masculine, but they didn't have this area sorted. They definitely weren't providers.
But how can you be masculine and not be a provider? Because that's a masculine
You're
essence.
Right. You're right.
You can't be
not fully.
You can't.
Not fully.
You can't, because if a woman's paying, like,
exactly,
like, you can't be masculine.
Yeah,
that's impossible.
Fully. Yeah.
But it's good that you identified that, because like that
fully.
that would hold you back
100%.
for your entire life if you weren't willing to look at it.
Exactly. That's rippled into everything. I mean, it's rippled into my relationships, my money, my companies, everything. And now I got to see that. I was, you know, I'm grateful for that wound, because even though it was there, it pushed me to create a lot, and it pushed me to just have a lot of experiences and get a lot of perspective and learn a lot. And so done with that.
Is it hard when you're like a woman that's operating at the level you're operating at to attract the right partners, the right relationships, the right things into your life? Because obviously you are out there, you're doing things. It's quite, you know, you're quite powerful in some respects, seen as from a man. It might intimidate a lot of men.
Yeah.
Have you found that through your whole time?
It does intimidate a lot of men. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I was like, no, it's amazing. No, it does intimidate a lot of men, but is that the man you want to be around?
Yeah.
You know, that's really the question. And that's what I learned as well. If my light and my shininess and my feminine power of creation is intimidating for a man, then he's not powerful enough to hold this energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for a lot of high level and successful women to hear, because I think a lot of them are settling, and a lot of them are even saying a story like, oh, you know, I'm going to be too much for everyone. And that's just not true. There are men out there that are also looking for that power. There are men out there that want to celebrate their woman and having her just shine so bright, and actually say, you know what? Well, if you're making that much money, well, the only answer is that I make more than you.
Yeah.
The only answer is that, okay, I'm there. All right, let me step up my game so I can provide at an even higher level. Actually, let me use you as an activator so I can be even more masculine, to hold even more of your feminine energy.
Yeah.
Right? And those men are out there.
Yeah. I think there's lots of good men and good women available at the level that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But one thing I have noticed is that as I'm rising up the levels as a man, and as I'm creating a better and better character, the things that I will and won't accept, that I add even more things to that list, you know what I mean, of things that I will and won't accept, which does make the pool of people that you can potentially meet even smaller and smaller and smaller. But I still trust in the knowing that there is the person out there for me, if you know what I mean.
100%.
Because otherwise you can put another block on your potential by thinking that there isn't. You know, I caught myself the other day. I was at the table with my friend Mitch. He come over from Australia, and is there. I'm meeting his girlfriend, and we're just having breakfast. And he says to me, "Oh, how's it going in Dubai? How's dating going in Dubai?" I'm like, and I said to him, I remember me saying it to him, "You don't date in Dubai, mate. You can't date in Dubai." He's like, "Brother, don't you worry. Your language is spells, bro. You're casting a spell over your time."
Right.
And I was like, wow, yeah, just call me back into alignment. It's like, and I went and meditated on that, and I got over that, you know, and stop framing it like that, because you are creating your own reality.
Yes.
So you really have to be, I think the most important thing I want everyone to take away from this conversation with you is like, really be conscious about the language patterns that you're speaking and how you're speaking them, because that's the true essence of holding you back in your entire life.
100%. And I completely agree. You know, again, we're in this frequency conversation. Our frequency is our currency. And when we say a word, it emits a sound wave, and that sound wave permeates the field of information and restructures the energetics of our field, which then completely shifts what we're creating externally as our perceived reality and what we're manifesting. So if we want to change that, we must come into the highest form of alignment and coherence with that. And that includes our words, internally and externally. I'm a freak on this. Like even little things, like I really make an effort to not say the word understand. Oh yeah, I understand that, because why would I be putting myself underneath the knowledge that someone had just shared with me? I'd prefer to understand it and inner stand beside it. You see the difference?
Yeah, I do. And I've never heard that frame like that before. Can you tell me some other words as well, similar to that people are using every day, that are actually, when you actually break down the meaning of the word, they're actually disempowering?
Totally. Well, understand shifting to inner stand is a great one. And then, for example, you won't hear me saying, oh my gosh, it was incredible. He's incredible. She's incredible. Because I don't want to take their credibility and make them unable to be credible. They're incredible. No, I want them to be, for example, amazing. Or, wow, that person I really admire and look up to. No, I'm not going to make them incredible. I actually want to honor that they are credible. It's wild, right?
One of the ones that I try not to use is good morning. Because it's like, what's good about mourning someone? Because mourning is mourning someone's death, right? So it's totally. like that word is kind of wishing death upon your day, right? But you don't realize that because you're conditioned to say these words.
Exactly.
But the English language has been changed over time, and you're actually saying a lot of words that disempower your growth.
For sure. No, it's really interesting to get curious with this, and even just day-to-day things, like people saying, yeah, you know, I can't do that, sorry. And it's like, well, you can. You're just choosing not to. Just own it. Just say, I'm choosing not to do that. I'm choosing not to even figure that out right now.
Because saying you can't do something shuts down your thought process to figure it out.
You create the spell that you can't.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't make that much money that fast. Well, you're right. Well done.
So whether you say you can or you can't, you're right on every aspect of the game.
Because that's what you create. Okay, I haven't yet figured out how to make that much money, but I'm aligning to it.
So you know, when you talk about creating in the field and creating your reality, and then you close the gap on that reality, and then it becomes you because you become that energy. How important to that is action?
It is very important. This is the 20%, right? So 80% internal, 20% the action that we do take. But where are you taking the action from? Right. So most people, even if they're good on the 80%, they're doing all this inner work, they're catching their language, they're doing everything we're talking about. And then many people are like, okay, now I have to go and make it happen. Okay, listen to the language firstly. I have to make it happen. Let's break this down. Me, just me, I, all about me, have to, you don't, firstly, you're choosing to, make it happen. No, you don't want to force and push something into your reality. What if instead you chose to remember that your manifestation's done? It's anchored somewhere out there in your future, you know, because there's the desire, your soul is speaking to you, you're listening, you're aligning to all of that. And what if your job was to simply know that it's done, and now you get to speed up the process of it showing up?
Know that it's done and speed up the process.
So now you're not making anything happen. You don't need to. Why? Because it's done. But you do need to participate in having it show up faster. Now it becomes a conversation of not can it manifest or not, but when will it manifest? Now it's a conversation of time. Now it's a conversation of can you bend the time? Now it's a conversation of you're taking action, but not from this place of I have to make it happen. That energy is a fear-based vibration. It's basically putting your manifestation on your shoulders and being like, I don't know how to figure this out, which basically means that there's a chance that it might not happen, which means you're operating from a fear that it might not happen. Versus if you're like, I know that it's done with clarity and conviction and confidence, and now we're speeding it up, you're surrendered, and you're coming into this place of actually dancing with it, of playing with it, of saying, okay, let me become the alchemist that can bend the time and simply bring it forward from my future into the now faster. Like this is a time conversation rather than a, can I make it happen? How do I make it happen conversation?
Guys, over the last 5 years, you've watched me travel around the world building this podcast in 9 countries with over 200 entrepreneurs. And one of the key things that I've learned is that every single one of these successful people have a playbook. They have a play-by-play of how they're going to operate their life, their mindset and everything else so they can scale. So they can scale their money, their business, their life and everything. I want to break that down for you. So what I've done is I've set up a weekly email that's going to be going live week in, week out, giving you a play-by-play of some of these the most top entrepreneurs in the world so you can understand how they're executing on their plan so you can execute on it too. If this is something that interests you, click the link, sign up to the email below, and that'll be coming out weekly.
Yeah. How do you get over that time piece though? Because like time seems so attached in the environment we live in. I mean, even like me wearing a watch today, it's like I'm attaching time.
Take it off.
I'm attaching time to my life.
Yeah, stop.
So stop
I'm serious. Take it off.
Yeah, serious. I'll take it off. The watch is good.
I mean, it's nice. It's a beautiful watch. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Because even the watches, they do link us into linear time. And when we're in linear time, we're running the programs of linear time. There's only 24 hours in the day. I don't have enough time. This is really big. It's going to take a long time. Oh, I wish I had more time to do the things that I love. I'm running out of time. How many times do we say this in languaging to ourselves and to others? Okay, time is one of the most powerful pieces in our manifestation toolkit because it's a concept and it's a structure that's illusionary. It's man-made. It's created. It's a way we process reality. And it's malleable. We can bend it. We can stretch it. We can alter it. We can have experience in altered state of consciousness outside of time. Everyone's had an experience where they've been listening to music or chatting with a friend and 2 hours has gone by and you're like, oh my God, I thought it was 20 minutes. You had a bent experience of the time, right? There's also an experience where you're waiting in a waiting room and like 7 minutes has gone by, but it feels like an hour and a half. And you're like, okay, like why is the time going so slow, right? Because of our relationship to the time in that moment. So we've got to start, if we want to start bending the time, we've got to unhook from the linear time, unhook from all these constructs, and we craft our own relationship with time. So you would sit down, for example, and write out, okay, I choose to believe that time is on my side. I choose to believe that time's my best friend. I choose to believe that everything I'm looking to manifest shows up even faster than I expect. I choose to believe I always have free time. I choose to believe that the things that I need to get done always get done even faster. I choose to believe that there's always extra time, right? I love time. Time is amazing. Time is malleable. I love playing with time. I'm a time bender. Like this is rolling off my tongue because it's just what I believe because I condition myself to be this way.
So this is the affirmation piece.
Yeah, it can be affirmations or, recalibrating your belief system or rewriting the program and the code underneath the surface, whatever label you want to put on it. But you've got to determine that time relationship and then you've got to live from that place and you've got to practice that. And one of the great ways to do this is to recognize when the time does bend either way, right? And be like, oh, interesting. The time went really quickly. Okay, cool. Like I just meant the time. And the more that you notice it and you notice you're jumping in and out of time, you're noticing that you're going into an altered state of consciousness and the time gets more malleable. You can play with it even easier.
So if you were to put like them in order, because obviously people can meditate today, they can do breath work, they can do affirmations, they can do visualization, they can do vision boards. I mean, there's so many things that they can do, like so many modalities that they can do. They're all good. Yeah. But if you were to put them in like order of what people should start doing from today, what would it be? What would the number one thing be?
I don't think there is a number one thing. I think it's different for everyone with where they're at. It's, even tools that were really useful for me 15 years ago, I don't even use now. And some that I use now, I didn't use them. And, it's just where you're at on your journey. So what you always want to be doing is asking, okay, what is the tool that's in the most alignment for me? Yeah. What feels most in resonance and what's working. I mean, if you're creating vision boards and staring at them and they're not coming true, stop doing that. It's not working. Find another tool. And then if you're, doing 2-hour hypnosis sessions and you're getting great results, keep doing that. You know what I mean? So find the tool that's helping you unlock, and it might not work forever. There were phases of my life where I was like, journaling is the answer. This is amazing. I just put a pen to paper and then magic unfolds. And I barely journal anymore. I tend to go through the processes the same as journaling, but just in my head really fast. You know what I mean? So you find different tools in different ways, and the tool's only as good as for as long as it's working for you.
Do you ever visualize your ideal day or anything like that?
Sometimes, every day, what I do more so is when I wake up and I kind of come into that, oh, I'm awake dream state, kind of floating in bed moment. I always connect and I ask, what does my soul desire right now? And that's always my question. And that looks different every day. Sometimes it's like, you know what? another hour sleep. Sometimes it's like, okay, stay in bed and rest for 20 minutes and just, focus on what I'm creating today. Sometimes it might be like, get up, go to the gym, lift heavy weights, move your body. Sometimes it might be like, go outside, be in the nature, be still. And it could be a short thing. It might be like a 2-minute thing. It might be a 2-hour thing. It varies every day, but I'm always then nourishing my soul, and I'm building that connection from my soul, and I'm listening to the desire of my soul, and I'm connecting into the highest intention from my soul. I'm setting it up from that frequency, and from there I take action. So every day I'm doing that, but it's not just like, I always visualize my perfect day every single morning. It's more like I tap into that innate intelligence and then go and do whatever it's telling me to do.
Yeah. So essentially then you allow yourself, and even I suppose you frame it so that you don't frame yourself to ever have a bad day, do you? So like
No.
you just frame it as like a lesson or a learning.
Data points of evolution. That's all it is. And, I've also learned to stay very grounded, even if I might have what someone else might perceive to be an amazing day, such a good day. I also don't get lost in the, oh my God, the high of it's so good. I feel it and I'm grateful and it's good, but data point of evolution, what did I learn from this? I was on stage last night at the Mind Valley Gala Awards and I got this amazing award. Jay Shetty presented it to me, and, someone else might be like, oh my God, this is so good. And I'm grateful and it's amazing. And, last night I was like, wow, like what have I learned today? It's the same as if I had a really shitty day. I'd also be like, okay, what did I learn today? You know what I mean? Yeah.
I had the same thing, because like obviously you get a lot of feedback on and comments on podcasts, like whether it's from Apple, Spotify, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
I realized probably like 18 months ago that if someone sends you good feedback or if someone sends you bad feedback, I'm nonplussed about either.
Yeah.
I appreciate both feedbacks, but but I've got a mission. I'm on a mission. I know where I'm going. I don't need the external feedback, to differentiate where I'm going.
Yeah, so that's a great muscle to build, and it can be really challenging. I know for me, I really struggled with that. I would write a post on the internet and there'd be 40 comments with beautiful comments and feedback and praise, and then one comment tearing me down, and I'd be fixated on the one comment for like a week. Why did they write that? I'll get really affected by it. It was hard to build that muscle,
Yeah, and on from that, like I just did the Andrew Tate podcast, and you see how many people have opinions on that.
Yeah, I actually shared one of those onto my Instagram. I don't remember which one it was, but I shared one of the clips from you interviewing him, and I loved it, and I was in resonance with the message that you guys were sharing, and I thought that's great. And I got torn down. I got like so many people in my DMs like, why are you doing this? Why are you sharing these guys? And so many opinions flowing around.
Yeah, I know, and opinions that haven't listened to the full conversation.
Exactly.
This is what I always find. Like, I always find that whereas when people write, especially negative comments, I'm always like, I understand. I send them good energy, because I'm like, obviously you're not in a good place right now, because obviously there's something going on. If you write negativity towards anyone else, there's something going on in your life that you've got to work on. And two, it's like, have you actually seen the full conversation?
Yeah.
Or has it been clipped out of context, or has one clip been matched in with another clip? You don't know, especially with podcasts and stuff like that. So it's crazy how people frame it like that. But sorry for sending you some negativity.
No worries. No. I was actually fine with it, and then I got more curious around it, because if people are generally triggered by something, there's something good going on. Usually it's like, okay, this is opening up a portal for discussion and clarity and people thinking and looking from different angles. So no, I know I liked it. I just found it very interesting.
Well, actually, an earlier point in the podcast, when we were talking about, how I said to you about how I'd felt that, when I was walking out of that boxing ring, and how I'd uncovered within myself that I had triggers, and it related to my mum, and then I realized it related to relationships. When I sat down and speaking to Andrew, even though he projects and he's a great communicator and he does all that, all I saw, because of my boxing background and because of everything that I've been through in my life, all I saw was like, here's a man that's hurting in some areas of his life that hasn't quite healed that, and he'll never fully admit that he needs to heal these parts of himself, because that's not his MO. But that's what I saw in that conversation. Sure. Because you when you've seen it in your own life, you can see it in other men, and that's why. But I fully believe that's what powers him to communicate at the level he's at, because if he did heal that part of himself, he wouldn't be able to operate in the way he's operating.
Look, it's the same with me with this money thing that I shared with you. If I hadn't have had that whole thing happen as a little girl and decided that thing with money, like I don't think I would have created what I've created today. I wouldn't have had something like really deep in me driving it, even if it's maybe not from the most amazing place, you know?
And same, it powered you,
Yeah.
right? And that anger within me at feeling like unloved powered me for years,
Yeah.
right? And this I don't know what it is within Andrew specifically, but the core wound around the female energy, that's what's powering and driving him to go and succeed in every area of life and get money and get cars and get status and everything else, because I can see that within him. But what I'm saying is, if he actually healed that part of himself, he wouldn't be able to do on a global scale what he's doing.
No, there'd be no reason to.
and it would just like make it just all disappear overnight.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's
It's
what
true.
happens. Because as soon as I healed that part of myself, I got completely out of boxing. Like I didn't go back to it. Like I stopped being a professional trainer.
Yeah.
I shut my boxing gym down, and because there's nothing left to fucking prove.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I think you can still, like, okay, if something's out of alignment, it shuts down. For example, if deep down you weren't meant to be a boxer for the rest of your life, it disappears away. But if deep down you were like really destined to be like the best boxer in the world, I think you would have kept going from it, but from a different place. So again, like for me with this example with money, like I'm not now going to go, okay, I healed that wound of like having to like create for myself and the masculine to take care of everybody. Like I'm not going to now be like, okay, now I don't make money, right? I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to make more money, but like from an even more integrated place. So I think there's a choice there.
Yeah. For me, like boxing is still a part of my life. I still box it. Like I use it for fitness, and I'm still involved in boxing in that respect. But it's just like the goal of me having the goal of me being a boxing trainer and working at world title level was because I didn't reach that level in boxing myself as a boxer. So it's like, well, that was to prove that point wrong, and then I wrapped it around, you know, helping other people do it. It's just you just wrap one thing around the next thing. Now boxing is an art for me to experience that I like and
instead
enjoy.
Instead of being wound driven.
Instead of being driven from this real big wound. But I love it. But
so cool.
I love to ask this question at the end of every podcast, because it really allows the guest to articulate the one thing that people can really use to move themselves forward. So if there's one pearl of wisdom, one piece of advice that you had to leave for everyone on this podcast today that would move them 1% forward from right now after this conversation, what would it be for you?
Okay, yeah. It would be that I would love people to remember that they really can have it all in their life, in whatever way that looks like for them. You know, Oprah Winfrey has a quote and she says, you can have it all, but not all at once. And I disagree. I think we can have it all at once. And if we choose that we simultaneously want to upgrade every single area of our life, we can do that. We don't have to be trading off one thing for the other. So for example, you have the body, but you're broke, or you have a lot of money, but you don't have a great relationship. I believe you can have all of it, but you have to choose all of it. And it's a scarcity program running underneath the surface that says either or, if you think you can't, right? But if you choose to not run that program and instead run a program of abundance says you can have all of it. Why? Because it's infinite and you have access to all of the information in the quantum field. So I'd like this to be a permission slip for everyone to simply choose that if they want. Like, you know what? I'm choosing to elevate every area of my life. And if one elevates even more, if I make even more money, for example, then that upgrades my relationships and my health and my body and my spirituality and everything across the board.
Yeah, I love that. And not to make any part of it your enemy type thing. You're not fighting against money.
Nothing.
Money doesn't make you a certain way just because someone told you that in the past. I love that. And just one more thing I want to clarify.
You want your watch back?
No. Should we not wear watches? Should we not wear watches? Should we all not wear watches? Like, is that a definite thing? Like,
you won't see me ever wearing a watch, because for me it links me straight back into linear time unconsciously, straight back into the morphic field of resonance of all the people looking at their watch every day. How much time's left? Oh my god, okay, it's 9 a.m. I've got to go. If I need to check the time, I want to consciously go, I need to check the time. What's the time? Let me look. And I have my time on my phone. Everyone does. Let me intentionally time check, not glancing at it constantly and looking at it when it's on the table because it's there and you don't even realize you're looking at your watch. It's a big hook in.
Yeah, I think for men it's been framed that you get a nice watch and then that subconsciously tells other men that you're worth talking to.
It has.
Like it has that element to it.
It's a thing. So if you want to get a really nice watch, you can still wear it, but be aware of it. Right? Just, you can wear it, but wear it as a piece of jewelry.
Yeah.
Like, even turn it off. Like have it not work. I don't care. Run it 3 hours out and 3.5 hours out, so it's confusing and you don't know what the time is, right? If you want to wear a beautiful watch whilst you're training yourself, and then maybe you can have it at the right time, but you're not using it to link into the time, because it totally is. It's a status symbol in many ways, and I love nice watches too. It's fine, but you can do it in that way.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you so much for dropping these bombs on this podcast today.
You're so welcome.
And if anyone wants to follow you, do you want to give them your Instagram and everything like that?
Yeah, sure. It's reganhillyer.com, and then Regan Hillyer on all the platforms. Send me a DM. Let me know you came from the show.
I love it. And thank you so much, guys, for listening. Do me a favor and drop a comment under this video on YouTube, and a like and a share and all that stuff. It all helps. I appreciate all of you listening, and much love.
Guys, I hope you got value from this podcast. And if you did, hit that subscribe button and turn the bell notifications on. But guys, I've got these videos here that will take you to a whole new level as well. So don't sleep on these.